All right, well, good morning, Steve.
Morning, Joanne.
I'm Joanne Bailey, Assessing Land Use Manager and Deputy Health Officer for the town of Bristol. And as I just said, I have with me Steve Carten, who's the Chair of the Planning Board for Bristol. We wanted to create this video to hopefully answer some basic questions that often get asked by our community members in regards to zoning review and proposed changes that appear on the ballot. So hopefully you'll take some time to watch this video. So we've prepared some questions ahead of time, so I'm just going to kind of go through them, Steve.
All right, Joanne, we'll give it our best shot.
All right. So how often does Bristol review and update its zoning ordinance, and why is it important?
Well, first, I'll say that changing the zoning ordinance isn't something that the planning board takes lightly. But we are constantly reviewing the ordinances. Every case that comes in front of us, we're reviewing those ordinances, and most provisions in the ordinance stay in place for a long, long time. But there are some times where we come up with issues and we need to make changes.
Very good. Well, were these amendments on this year's ballot determined based on local needs, changes in state law, or because of both?
Both. There's, as I said before, we have a number of cases that come before us from the planning board, and I'm also on the zoning board, and we have a number of cases there as well. And oftentimes there's confusion when the cases come before us. There's confusion with the board, with the applicant, and as well as the town staff and how to interpret those ordinances. So part of this is to clean up those languages and make sure we stay current, because things are constantly changing and we want to make sure our ordinance stays current with those changes. And speaking of changes, the state law changes constantly too, and we have to make sure that our ordinances keep up with those changes from the state and that we meet those state requirements.
That's for sure. So that really leads in nicely with the next question. How did the planning board develop these proposed amendments?
Over a long period of time. The process is, I wouldn't say painful, but painstaking. It takes months to develop it. We have, the board gets together. We have 2 meetings a month. When we decide an ordinance needs to be changed, we discuss it, with ourselves, with the town staff, and we look at state ordinance, state requirements to make sure that that's done. This isn't taken lightly, it's not rushed, and we take our time and make sure we get it right before we present it to the public.
So what opportunities did the public have to provide input before these go to ballot?
The public has lots of opportunities. All of our meetings, as required by state law, are public meetings. Our planning board meetings are public. And as a plug, please come to our meetings. You'll get a lot of information if you come, and your input is valuable to us. All of our planning board minutes are posted on the website, the town website. And before we actually formally adopted the amendments to put on the ballot, we held public meetings. And we had some people show up and they asked some great questions, and it was really helpful to us. I think it helped them answering their concerns about what we were proposing, but it certainly helped us get a good feel from the public on what they thought we were
Right.
coming out with.
I think that's critical. So in plain English, what are the key changes voters should know about?
Most of the changes that we proposed are cleaning up language. There was a lot of confusion in there. Old language referred to old ordinances that are no longer in effect. So that the majority of it is housekeeping. There are some changes, obviously, that we, as I spoke of before, we have to keep up with state regulations and stay current with, land uses change, the way people use their property changes, and planning is a process, and we have to stay up with those changes and do that.
What do you feel are maybe some misconceptions that you've heard about the amendments and that you'd like to clear up?
The amendments won't affect most people. And it certainly won't affect your existing if you have a property and you're not planning to change property, do any subdivisions, planning, big developments, anything like that, you'll see no changes. But it's the changes that going forward, the people who have those changes, or planning those changes, assuming that these amendments are approved by the voters, they'll have to deal with the new regulations. But nothing is retroactive. So if anybody's made changes, everything is already in place. Nothing changes for them.
On that. Well, I think this fits nice. This question probably is very appropriate based on the townwide reval that just took place. I think a big question on people's mind is, do these changes impact property taxes or assessments?
No, absolutely not. The planning board and the zoning board have nothing to do with property values or assessments. That's all handled by the assessing department. Again, that has nothing to do with us or these amendments.
Thank you for sharing that.
Hopefully that clears up some concerns.
Yeah. How does the planning board balance growth and preserving Bristol's character?
Very carefully. Bristol is a great little town. And everybody I've heard that we've talked to, and even when we were doing the master plan, we want to conserve that save that small town feel. And that's the goal here, is to do that. Mm-hmm. But again, things change, and we have to keep up with those changes, but we're not trying to change the town. We're just trying to keep up with those changes to make sure our ordinance stay current.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask, if the amendments pass, what happens next, and when would they take effect?
If the voters approve the amendments, then the amendments will become part of the zoning ordinance after the election, and we'll implement them as dictated by state law.
Okay.
But again, the town will then apply to any cases coming forward or coming before us after the election. Again, assuming that things change, they'll be affected by the new ordinances, but anything that's happened up to that point will not.
Okay. Would the planning board revisit similar changes in the future if they didn't pass?
If an amendment doesn't pass, the current ordinance stays in place. And obviously the planning board respects the will of the voters, and will stay, will abide by that will. But unfortunately, things do change, so if the state law changes or if other things change, we may have to bring it to ballot again in the future, but try to make it more amenable to the public opinion that they would be more accepting of those changes.
Mm-hmm. So what would you encourage voters to read or review before voting?
Read and review the warrant articles. I'm going to hold this up. Real quick, this is the voter guide for the town of Bristol for 2026. There's a copy on the website. There's a link on the Bristol Buzz, and they have it available here at the town office. Please grab a copy, read it. I encourage everybody to get out and vote. Local elections are so important. They have a great impact on your life, probably more than a national election would. If you have the voter guide, goes through all the amendments, it explains them, I feel clearly, but if you have any questions at all about it, please reach out to the town office personnel, and they'll be happy to help you and explain it to you.
So you mentioned the town website, the voter guide. We do have them printed off in each of the lobbies here at town office. Meeting minutes, as you spoke about earlier, are available. So what is the one thing you want voters to understand before they cast their ballot?
The amendments, we're not looking to, planning is planning. We're looking to the future to try to see what's coming and try to address and make changes for the future. And planning constantly changes, the future changes, and we're just understand that this is part of the planning process to keep the town moving forward, make sure our ordinances meet the needs of the future as we see it now. But obviously that changes, and we're taking our best shot at keeping us in, to meet the requirements of the future as we see them.
Awesome. Well, that concludes the questions that I had, Steve. Thank you for coming in. I know this is not what we do. We're not paid. We're not paid actors. This is our real life thing. But I believe this video will be posted on the website. May go out in the buzz, and maybe on some of our social media sites. So give us a thumbs up if you see it. Give us feedback if there's things that you still have questions about. But I think, awesome job.
Could I make a plug here too?
Absolutely.
I want to thank everybody for watching this, but please, all the boards, the planning board, the zoning board, CIP, there's many committees out in the town. We're all volunteers. We're always looking for help, and if anybody wants to, is interested in getting involved, please do. Your participation is wanted and needed, and all of these meetings are, as I said earlier, are open to the public. Planning board, zoning board, select board, they're all open to the public. Please come make your voices heard. Get involved in your local issues. And thanks for watching.